Lesson 1. The 8 Immortals of Taoism. Legends and fables of popular Taoism. Historians argue whether Lao Tzu is possibly just a mythical figure. He's attributed to have lived during the 5th century BCE in China and is considered the founder of the religious philosophy, the Tao Te Ching. Martin Palmer, author of the Introduction to the 8 Immortals, says the Tao, or the Way, sought reconciliation and oneness with nature. He goes on to tell that early in the 2nd century CE, magical Taoism developed in China. He says, Taoism established a vast and complex system of gods who were given responsibility for every conceivable aspect of human life. Some of these gods came from the deification and anthropomorphosis of shamanistic forces such as the sun, rain, rivers, and mountains. Others arise from imperial Chinese posts such as the district god or the city god, who mirror exactly the role of the local prefect or the city mayor. Others are historical figures who, because of the life they've led, are deified in order to represent either a particular interest or to act as mortal exemplars. If you watch the cartoon movie Mulan or the Chinese historical fiction Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you'll see some specific references and pick up on the themes of Taoism used there. Capturing tradition and the history of spiritual ideas and icons and deities is an ancient human component. It helps us remember the past and retain concepts and values, the past, and pass the values of good and evil to our children. Taoism is not unique in its appreciation of balance in nature and what it teaches of how to honor and respect the world we live in. Again, Martin Palmer, a devout family would need to pay attention and make suitable offerings of incense to the earth god of the actual land on which they live and run their business. The local god in the neighborhood temple, the district or city god for the wider area they live in, the gods of literature if they have sons studying, the gods of various diseases which might affect them, the year god, and so on. Certain gods would also have to be worshipped on special days in each month. These are listed in the Chinese almanac, the Tsung Chu. For example, 5 Chinese months do not correspond directly to Western months, as the Chinese use a lunar calendar, and lunar years are 10 to 11 days shorter than solar years. So it says, for example, 5 has these special days. I'm sorry, month 5 has these special days, but I'm not going to read them at this time. Palmer continues, Taoism offered something unique in Chinese faith prior to the widespread following of Buddhism. It offered personal salvation and freedom, something the hierarchical, fundamentally worldly creed of Confucius did not offer, and indeed even rejected. The salvation Taoism offered differs greatly from that known in the West, for Taoism developed a fascinating theory and series of practices designed to ensure complete physical as well as spiritual immortality. Palmer goes on to explain how there's a debate as to why there's such an emphasis on immortality of the physical body, but I'm going to skip that part for now. He then touches on something I find incredibly important for all of us to consider, especially as it relates to our current age. He says, one of the cruelest Chinese emperors was Qin Shi Huangdi, who ruled the first fully unified China from 221 to 210 BCE. Whilst being chiefly recalled for his acts of dictatorial terror, such as burying Confucianists alive, he's also remembered for having been obsessed with immortality. When he heard tales of the Isles of Immortality, where the necessary ingredients for a pill of immortality could be found, from one of his court magicians, Su Fu, he equipped massive fleets to go in search of these islands. One such fleet carried 3,000 young people, plus artisans of every kind. In the works of Chuang Tzu, written circa 300 BCE, the emperor read of the Qi Zhen, the realized man. This person is able to walk on water, travel the skies, and live forever. Qin Shi Huangdi advisors told him that if he kept out of sight, they would be able to make him a realized man, a suggestion which to modern ears sounds likely to have been based on fear of assassination attempts. In order to comply with this and so gain the chance of immortality, Qin Shi Huangdi ordered his workmen to link 20 square miles of palaces with covered corridors. Think about that. This is the year 220, what did I say? 221 to 210 BCE. And he's ordered his workmen to link 20 square miles of palaces with covered corridors. I find that amazing. Some of the architectural achievements that occurred thousands of years ago always astonish me. So continuing, the scale of this man's obsession with the possibility of actually achieving immortality acts as a very accurate measure of the intensity of the belief in immortality, as well as the intensity of the quest. Now, the reason this is so important for us to understand and put into today's context is because the mentality and the desire for immortality is as strong now as it ever was. In fact, I would argue that the belief in a tangible path to immortality is stronger among the elite of the world today than it has ever been in all of history. And let's take a look at Ray Kurzweil for a better understanding of this. So, Ray Kurzweil is a brilliant inventor and author, and has worked for Google as a director of engineering since 2012, according to Wikipedia. He's a futurist, an advocate for transhumanism, AI, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and life extension technology in general. He believes that humans will merge with machines at an increasingly rapid pace, where we will be indistinguishable with them by the end of the century. We can get an idea of his mentality and his projections from the timeline of developments he predicts in his book, The Age of the Spiritual Machines. And I highly recommend everyone checks out The Age of the Spiritual Machines to better understand Ray Kurzweil's futurist beliefs, but also how that relates to what I'm about to say, and the beliefs with modern tech companies and the elites in general. The book was written in 1999, and consider the accuracy of his predictions. The timeline reads like this: 2019, a $1,000 computing device in $1999 is now approximately equal to the computational ability of the human brain. Computers are now largely invisible and are embedded everywhere in walls, tables, chairs, desks, clothing, jewelry, and bodies. Three-dimensional virtual reality displays embedded in glass and contact lenses, as well as auditory quote-unquote lenses, are used routinely as primary interfaces for communication with other persons, computers, the web, and virtual reality. Most interaction with computing is through gestures and two-way natural language spoken communication. Nano-engineered machines are beginning to be applied to manufacturing and process control applications. High-resolution, three-dimensional, visual, and auditory virtual reality and realistic, all-encompassing tactile environments enable people to do virtually anything with anybody, regardless of physical proximity. Checking the time here. Paper books or documents are rarely used, and most learning is conducted through intelligent, simulated, software-based teachers. So, if you paid attention, all of those things are in existence today, and he predicted that 10 years prior. But I'm sure they already had a lot of that theory and a lot of that, the preconcepts down. There is more, but this is significant enough as a reference. For example, just watch the 1993 movie Demolition Man, and you will see a host of these future predicted technologies, including Google Glasses, touchscreen monitors, handheld computers, implants, eye scanning devices, computers in clothing, walls, and furniture, voice-activated lights, and the list goes on. Kurzweil includes another interesting fact that has been imitated by several fascinating movies. Ex Machina speaks directly to what he says here. There are widespread reports of computers passing the Turing test, although these tests do not meet the criteria established by knowledgeable observers. If you haven't seen Ex Machina, you must. Every one of these predictions has been realized to a great degree. He goes on with these 2029 these are his 2029 timeline predictions, and here are some of the critical ones. Direct neural pathways have been perfected for high bandwidth connection to the human brain. A range of neural implants is becoming available to enhance visual and auditory perception and interpretation, memory and reasoning. Automated agents are now learning on their own, and significant knowledge is being created by machines with little or no human intervention. Computers have read all available human and machine-generated literature and multimedia material. Now, this is currently going on with things like Google's deep learning and whatever the others are. There are other programs or other like Facebook or whoever has them. The AI is learning from all the data that's being collected from our phones, our likes, searches, comments, etc. Access to this data is propelling AI advancements exponentially into the future. It's insane what we're doing to build this system, unwittingly. Kurzweil continues, there is widespread use of all-encompassing visual, auditory, and tactile communication using direct neural connections, allowing virtual reality to take place without having to be in a quote-unquote total touch enclosure. The majority of communication does not involve a human. Now again, these are his predictions for the year 2029. The majority of communication does not involve a human. The majority of communication involving a human is between a human and a machine. There is almost no human employment in production, agriculture, or transportation. Basic life needs are available for the vast majority of the human race. There is a growing discussion about the legal rights of computers and what constitutes being quote-unquote human. Although computers routinely pass apparently valid forms of the Turing test, controversy persists about whether or not machine intelligence equals human intelligence in all of its diversity. Machines claim to be conscious. These claims are largely accepted. And here are some of the most terrifying realities of some of these predictions that have already begun to be realized almost 10 years prior to Kurzweil's predictions. So as is always the case, technology is used as a weapon of war and a tool of government control first. We're now seeing the emergence of robotics and experiments with autonomous robots for military and police applications. Imagine what the world will be like when we accept that AI is conscious and humans are using AI for applications such as military and policing and as arbiters of legal matters. I'll get into the implications of linking our brains with direct neural pathways for high bandwidth connections shortly. So I will continue, but I'm going to do it on another video because I'm running long on time.